안녕하세요. 밴쿠버 인사이트입니다. 오늘 여러분에게 흥미로운 영상을 소개하려고 합니다. 이 영상은 자유주의로 인한 주요 국가들의 몰락이라는 제목으로 이것은 캐나다, 영국, 호주에 대한 이야기입니다. 세 대륙에 흩어져 있지만 이 세 나라는 지금 똑같은 방식으로 무너지고 있습니다. 그리고 이제 그 징후는 더 이상 무시할 수 없을 정도로 분명해졌습니다.
This is Canada, the United Kingdom, and Australia, three nations spread across three different continents. But despite the distance, one alarming truth connects them all. They are collapsing in exactly the same way. And now, the symptoms are impossible to ignore. Let's begin where the cracks are turning into a full-blown collapse. Canada. In Canada today, the average family can't afford a home in their own country. Home ownership has crashed 31% in a single generation. Compounding this issue, foreign buyers now hold a significant stake in the Canadian property market, owning up to 13% of it, more than at any point in history. But Canada isn't alone. In Britain, the foundation of the middle class has been gutted. Manufacturing jobs gone, down 46% since 1990. And what did families get in return? The highest tax burden since World War II, all while public services fell apart. But this isn't just a British problem. Across the world, Australia is living the same nightmare, only deeper. There, a quiet takeover is underway. Foreign corporations now control 80% of the country's critical resources. And the dream of home ownership? Dead on arrival. Housing prices have soared by 500%. While wages crawled just 80%. Young Australians are being priced out of their future in their own country. And this pattern across continents, across governments, is no accident. This isn't just failure. It's not bad luck. It's called managed decline, and it's happening by design. And if you're watching this thinking it can't happen here, you need to pay attention, because these three nations are the test cases for what's already occurring throughout the Western world. What you're about to learn in this video will completely change how you understand what's happening to these once powerful nations and why everyone should be deeply concerned about what comes next. The evidence is hiding in plain sight. Government documents, insider testimonies, and statistical patterns reveal a blueprint that's been quietly unfolding for decades. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Most people have no idea that the collapse of these three nations follows a familiar historical pattern. Every empire throughout history has fallen in a similar way, from the inside out. Take ancient Rome. Most think it fell to barbarian invasions, but Rome's real decline began internally, through economic inequality that mirror what's happening across Canada, the UK, and Australia right now. By the 2nd century AD, as Rome's expansion slowed, the wealthy elite created massive estates worked by imported labor. This destroyed local Roman farmers, the backbone of the Republic, who were crushed by debt and displacement. Sound familiar? It should. It's the exact same pattern unfolding today. When Roman reformers tried addressing these inequalities, they were eliminated. The elites chose to get rid of reformers rather than give up their power. A key point to remember as we look at what's happening in these modern nations. Just as Rome faced demographic collapse in its final years, these three nations are experiencing unprecedented population shifts. Despite Canada importing over 480,000 migrants in 2024 alone, its fertility rate has plummeted to just 1.48 children per woman, far below the replacement level. The UK's fertility rate has crashed to 1.44. While Australia's sits at 1.5. These countries aren't growing naturally. They're being artificially repopulated while their middle classes vanish, exactly as Rome's did before its fall. Managed decline might sound like boring corporate jargon, but it represents one of the most dangerous concepts in modern governance. Originally a business term for companies beyond saving, it evolved into a strategy where maintaining appearances takes priority over actual solutions. This isn't conspiracy theory, it's documented policy. The concept emerged during the 1980s in Britain when Margaret Thatcher's government advised that struggling industrial cities should be left to manage decline, controlling the collapse rather than preventing it. But what's truly shocking? This localized strategy has now been scaled up to the national level across Canada, the UK, and Australia, and the evidence isn't hidden. It's being announced openly. Don't believe it? Just look at the official messaging coming out of these governments. Their infamous "you'll own nothing and be happy" rhetoric wasn't just a meme, it's becoming the reality for millions. In Australia, government reports warn of a generation of forever renters as home ownership slips out of reach for younger Australians. In Canada, nearly a third of people under 40 now say they expect to rent for life, according to recent surveys. And in the UK, a 2025 policy paper declared that the era of mass homeownership is over, signaling a long-term shift away from traditional property ownership. If this is your first time hearing about managed decline, prepare for a rude awakening, because once you understand how it works, you'll start seeing it everywhere. And nowhere is it more obvious than what's happening to Canada right now. Canada presents itself as a progressive, independent nation. The reality? It's being transformed back into a resource colony before our very eyes. Here's the playbook being implemented with frightening precision. First, domestic production gets strangled. Since 2009, business investment per worker in Canada has fallen by 20%, according to Statistics Canada, part of a broader trend tied to weaker market competition. Meanwhile, productivity has stagnated. Canada also recorded only 1.1% growth in real GDP per capita between 2014 and 2024, making it the second worst performer among 38 high-income countries. Second, the market gets flooded with new consumers. Canada now has the highest population growth in the G7, with 98% coming from immigration. This creates artificial GDP growth on paper while masking collapsing living standards. Meanwhile, the housing market has detached completely from economic reality. The average Toronto home now costs 11 times the median household income, more than double what financial experts consider remotely sustainable. Young Canadians aren't just unable to buy homes, they're spending up to 60% of their income on rent alone. The numbers are staggering. In March 2025, the average home price in Toronto hit $1.4 million, while Vancouver topped $1.7 million. Meanwhile, the median annual income in these cities hovers around $100,000. The math simply doesn't work anymore. And who's buying these properties? Foreign investors purchased tens of thousands of Canadian homes in recent years, with many left empty as pure investment vehicles.
캐나다에서는 한 세대 만에 주택 소유율이 31%나 급락했고 외국인 투자자가 주택 시장의 13%를 차지하고 있습니다. 영국은 제조업 일자리의 46%가 사라졌고 전쟁 이후 최고 수준의 세금에도 불구하고 공공 서비스는 붕괴되고 있습니다. 호주에서는 외국 기업이 국가 핵심 자원의 80%를 장악했고 집값은 500% 상승했지만 임금은 고작 80%만 올랐습니다. 이 세 나라에서 벌어지는 현상은 단순한 실패나 우연이 아닙니다. 이것은 의도된 쇠퇴, 즉 계획된 몰락입니다. 이 흐름은 역사 속 제국의 몰락과 똑같은 경로를 따르고 있습니다. 고대 로마도 내부의 불평등과 인구 붕괴로 무너졌습니다. 지금의 캐나다, 영국, 호주도 마찬가지입니다. 출산율은 모두 1.4, 1.5 수준으로 자연적인 인구 유지가 불가능한 상황이며 대량 이민으로 인구는 늘지만 중산층은 사라지고 있습니다. 관리된 쇠퇴는 음모론이 아닙니다. 1980년대 영국 정부는 쇠퇴하는 도시들을 포기하고 관리하라라는 정책을 세웠고 이제는 이 전략이 국가 전체에 적용되고 있습니다. 호주는 공식적으로 영원한 임차인 세대의 도래를 경고했고 캐나다의 40세 이하 국민 중 3분의 1은 평생 집을 못 살 거라고 믿고 있으며 영국은 대중적 주택 소유의 시대는 끝났다고 공식 발표했습니다. 캐나다는 지금 자원의 식민지화가 진행 중입니다. 기업 투자는 2009년 이후 노동자 1인당 20%가 감소했고 생산성 정체와 GDP 성장률은 선진국 꼴찌 수준입니다. 가장 심각한 건 주거 문제입니다. 수만 채의 집이 외국인 투자자 손에 들어가 비어진 채로 남아 있습니다. 이제 우리는 물어야 합니다. 중산층은 정말 사라질 운명인가? 지금의 위기는 우연이 아닙니다. 정책과 구조, 선택의 결과입니다. 그래서 해결도 멀지 않습니다. 우리는 다시 설계할 수 있습니다. 주거는 투기가 아니라 삶의 기반이어야 하고, 자원은 외국이 아닌 국민을 위해 써야 하며, 경제는 숫자가 아닌 사람 중심이어야 합니다. 무엇보다 중요한 건 깨어나는 것입니다. 지금은 몰락의 설계도를 따르고 있지만 우리는 새 설계도를 만들 수 있는 세대입니다. 중산층은 소득이 아니라 안정된 삶에 대한 믿음입니다. 그 믿음을 지키는 것, 지금부터 우리가 함께 해야 할 일입니다.